you've been an investor or advisor in companies like XAI, which is now, at the time of recording, was just acquired by SpaceX. You invested in Grok, GROQ, which makes LPUs, language processing units, and that firm was acquired by NVIDIA. And so, yeah, I'd love to understand your thinking on what's going on with hardware. Do you believe, for example, that the future of AI performance lies in specialized LPU hardware like Grok builds, or in better software orchestration on top of general purpose GPUs? And you can also answer this question more broadly with just generally where you think hardware is going and where people should be putting their money.
I'm in a fortunate position where I do have extra cash and I can take some chances. These are all secondary market shares. They're not public companies, or some are like about to IPO and things. On the investor side of it, I look for, this is very trite these days, but you have to look at the founders. Yeah, so Elon, he's an absolute nut job, of course, and he's very controversial. And my sister hates Teslas because of him and all this kind of stuff. So I can't even talk about these some of these investments when I'm home for Christmas and things. But you have to look at their ability to fundraise. Right now, the secondary market is where all the action is, and so if you're still investing in Apple and things, like you're like behind the times. Like, this is not where the money is currently being made, especially because there's been such a dry spell with these IPOs. So hopefully that changes. I'd say my best investments so far have been Databricks. Of course, I was an early employee there back in the day, and I know those founders very well. You have to look at folks that can raise money, that can convince people that they're on the right path, that have their stuff together. Where are things going? There's so many different types of chips coming out. In fact, I'm about to go to lunch with some folks at Etched, which is another little player and similar to Grok with a Q. It's good to keep an eye on these folks to see sort of generally where things are moving. I mentioned before that the biggest bottleneck is this memory bandwidth. This is something this is the main reason why the NVIDIA folks purchased Grok with a Q, or did their little weird acquisition, licensing deal, is the LPU has all of that memory on the same chip, right? Right next to the actual, the accelerator itself. And so that then and that's really good for inference, because like I said, when you're doing inference, there's that decode step that has to move a lot of weights around that's very, very memory bandwidth bound. And so it's a really great complement to the NVIDIA chip, which suffers from this memory bandwidth limitation. And it's just a fundamental architecture design that dates back to their graphics days. And so instead of building a cycle of 5 or 6 years out where they have the chip, they ended up. So, and also with XAI, it's interesting because I passed up on SpaceX a few years ago because I didn't see the leap that Elon is currently talking to. I didn't have enough vision for that. I saw that I liked XAI in that Grok with a K, which I actually personally don't really use that much. I should, because I'm an investor, but I liked that. I like the work ethic of those guys. I actually met with them quite a bit last year while I was writing the book. They're big backers of SGLang, which is like VLLM, which is an inference engine, but it's SGLang. It's another project that kind of came out of Berkeley around the same time, VLLM, that does things a little bit differently. So we had some conversations. Some of that of those conversations actually are part of the book now. What's the specific question again? I kind of talked my way out of that.